just need it in case I have to look at.
Hello, let's welcome you to Abuja this morning, and I want to thank our colleagues in Enugu who have given us a good beginning today. Now, I want to begin this program this morning by recalling that on Tuesday, the President, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, visited Benue State. Now, I know that visit has been anticipated by a number of Nigerians. But to us here in the studio, that visit was a clear indication that the President will be intolerant of any form of violence. It was also a show of concern. And I can tell you, my own reading is that it is a show of determination to pursue violence wherever it rears its head and deal with it decisively. And that I say so because the President went to Benue State with military teeth. The level of show of force, a willingness to tackle the situation was evident. There are those who have taken up issues that the President should have gone earlier, maybe a day or two. That's not that I do not think he's going quickly after the event unfolded is the principal concern. I have one or two worries. In the public domain, right on public television, a very senior intelligence official, shortly after Tinubu took power and Muhammad Buhari had just left power, told Nigerians the source of Nigeria's challenge, Nigeria's insecurity challenge. Every other thing he says is an appendage, it's a fallout. Before I tell you, remind us of what that security official, very senior one, said to us on Channels Television, and let me be specific. Former President Muhammad Buhari himself had told Nigerians that whether I call it banditry or terrorism or insurgency, they are the same group of people. Buhari said insurgents use banditry and kidnapping to fund insurgency. When Boko Haram established a cell in Niger State and people were giving them names like bandits, when they hit Katsina and they were called bandits, Muhammad Buhari himself said, don't use euphemisms. Call the name what it is. These are insurgent terrorists. The President himself. So I'm worried how we in the media have been sucked into the conversation of farmer-herder clash. The conversation, the narrative is farmer-herders clash. Instead of following the words of former President Muhammad Buhari, he said, whatever coloration we see, they have the same objective, the same groups appearing in different guise to create contradictory narratives, confusing narratives. That security official told Nigerians that unfortunately, let me quote him, unfortunately, there are Nigerians who are interested in a religious agenda. I'm quoting him, who want Nigeria to be like not just an Islamic nation. No, they're not satisfied with that. What they want is of the Afghanistan variant. And that a number of them are in government, a number of them are in the legislature. In fact, the gentleman said that he had led a team of interrogators who interrogated some of them who are in the Senate. Can we sit back this morning as President Tinubu returns from Benue? Because of the blood this morning that is flowing in different communities, different local government areas of Benue State. The president was appalled, is concerned, and is showing it. But we ask a question this morning, Mr. President. Have you really examined what the security constituency is telling you? Because that high security official said, even within DSS, all the information is available, including those sponsoring, financing, high government officials, high businessmen. If the president has this information, what has he gone to Benue State to do? Because before the president visited Benue, he released a statement in which he used the word reconciliation, which statement contained the word reprisal. In other words, the people of Benue State are being accused of injuring some people who, in retaliation, are killing them. That is not what Muhammad Buhari said. That is not what the high security official said. Are we trying to blame the victim? Apart from that, Mr. President, the senior security officials said that they have been arresting a number of people sponsoring. Why does government not prosecute them? And let me quote him again. He said they looked at the body language of Muhammad Buhari and therefore could not arrest those high-level government officials who are involved or who were involved. Mr. President, your going to Benue shows me that your body language indicates that you want to resolve this problem. You will not accept spilling blood of innocent Nigerians. So, you are willing to get to the heart of the matter. Nigerians expect you to do so. Welcome back from Benue State, Mr. President, but please consider the facts available on your desk. But that's the issue this morning. As we thanked the people from Enugu State, we hope that these insecurities are not distracting us from actual governance. The 2025 budget, that's the issue we want to examine a little deeply, because budget, a non-governmental organization, had just released a report which indicates that 11,122 projects unknown to the executive, not coming from any research, any work by the executive arm of government, were inserted into the 2025 budget. The number again, 11,122. 11,122. And that's going to cost the country 6.93 trillion naira. 6.93 trillion naira. Who done it? Who inserted those projects? What 6.93 trillion? Members of the National Assembly. That's the issue of concern we're raising this morning. And who else do we have in the studio? I have Gimba Suleiman Hassan. Gimba Suleiman Hassan is a lawyer. Not just a lawyer, he's from Transparency International. CISLAC Transparency International, who are monitoring, have been tracking our budgets. Gimba, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Gimba, as a lawyer, I want to start from a legal premise. The Constitution provides for certain functions, and if I'm wrong, please help educate me. Right. And one of those functions for the executive arm is preparation of the budget. In other words, by the clear provision of the Constitution, the executive is to prepare the budget. The legislature is to go through the budget with a fine comb in order to ensure that that budget, first, the figures are right, second, allocations to the necessary sectors are done, and the money is available or can be available for implementing it. Does that Constitution give the responsibility of preparing that budget to the legislature?
Thank you for the question, sir. I would like to state clearly what empowers the executive to make such budgetary allocations and preparations. It's Section 5 of the Constitution and Section 318. And then at the same time, it says that budget now cannot be spent until it has been appropriated by the National Assembly, which is under Section 80, subsection 4. And so that's on the part of the executive. And if you are looking at the National Assembly, what empowers it to also make additions to a budget and to have its own projects, I think is something that's a bit technical. Because ideally, when the executive brings a project to the National Assembly, it is supposed to scrutinize it. And then usually what we have, the major problem and challenges we have in Nigeria with regards to budgetary provisions, with regards to procurement in the public sector, it's inflation. So ideally, the National Assembly is supposed to scrutinize this and look at where there are inflations in projects and all that, and reduce it so that the project is more effective and more efficient, and also zeroes out any way that it can be over bloated. I think that's what it's supposed to be doing. What it's supposed to be doing. So when it comes to doing projects for their constituencies, and make no mistake, the grassroots is actually a bit of, let's say, abandoned. But then democracy can only be deepened, not by centralizing projects to the federal level, but by respecting the constitutional tiers of government, which is the federal, state, and local governments. So what the National Assembly is supposed to be doing is to empower the local governments to be able to do all these things for their people. If it's the traditional institutions, because it also doesn't, the traditional institutions don't have a legal framework. So if it's for the traditional institutions to also look at a way they will have a constitutional mandate. But one of these additions that was done is provision for vehicles for traditional rulers in Kaduna State, which is believed to be from the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Of what importance is the provision of vehicles for traditional rulers to the ordinary Nigerian, that will be included in the national
budget.
A federal budget in Kaduna State. It doesn't make sense. Then what happens to other traditional rulers across the country? They will be asking questions as well. So if you look at this critically, it's a matter of empowering the local level to be doing this, not to be replaced by the National Assembly. And it lacks legal framework, the constituency projects. This was started by the presidency of President Olusegun Obasanjo, which was seen widely as a way of smoothing the relationship between the executive and the legislative arm, so they pass whatever is before them, and at the same time they have something to show to their people.
That we brought this development while we were in office.
Exactly. And it's a bit of a distraction, really, if you look at it critically, because the major function of a lawmaker is to make laws, is to legislate. And a lot of them pass through those 4 years without sponsoring any bill or motion or whatnot. They don't do anything in terms of
because they don't seem to know how to do those things.
They don't exactly, because I think we need to look at how to educate lawmakers here in Nigeria, because someone leaves his village, comes to Abuja to represent his people, and he carries other people from the village to come and do a national assignment here. It doesn't, I think, work like this. And they have provisions for aides in the National Assembly. They have senior legislative assistants, all sorts of people that are supposed to make their job easier. These are not supposed to be political appointments. They are supposed to look at professionals from think tanks, from law firms, from a lot of people that know the federal capital and know how to engage with the National Assembly and lawmakers, so that he will have an action plan. Most of them are just going through that particular term. They are just going through it.
Distinguished senator or honorable member. That's what they want.
That's what they want, and then they don't have any action plan how to help the people. So when they go back home, these are the things they want to show. Is it whether it's street light, whether it's kekena peps? These are the usual.
Yeah, but you are raising a very serious issue. They want to provide street light. They want to provide kekena pep. They want to provide boreholes. And you just drew me into what educated me on the structure. The state governments under the Constitution have their clearly defined responsibilities. Street lights, borehole, kekena pep for rural transportation, health centers and market development. Those are within the province of the local government areas.
Yeah.
You've already said that the right thing is to empower the local governments to perform those functions. The legislature, therefore, not infracting, if not undermining, the Constitution? Because if you usurp the function of any tier of government, you are making that tier ineffective. By there usurping, appropriating the functions of the local government through their projects, they are making the local governments, or whatever level of governance they're supposed to provide these things, they're in fact demeaning them before the people. You are here, local government chairman, I get my whatever from Abuja. Why would I respect you? Why would I cooperate with you? So they are, now, why I'm asking this question is, if they're acting to undermine the Constitution, what do we do?
Well, the first thing I think we have to look at is this is a very political situation, and it's something that might actually require a political solution. And this is something that if you are going to create a framework on whether to stop it or whether to create a framework now that will guide constituency project, you need the National Assembly to do that. And
now that National Assembly is the sinner, what do we do?
Well, I don't think this is something that an executive order can solve. Definitely, you still need the National Assembly. And then to eradicate a constituency project is going to be very difficult, because the National Assembly will not pass a bill to stop constituency projects. Rather, they can pass a bill to regulate it, to give it a legal framework, because it doesn't have any legal framework guiding it. And then we have the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which makes provision for the MTEF, which is the Medium Term Expenditure Framework. and this is done by the executive without input from the National Assembly. And then you set this aside, because the MTF is really, really important, because it looks at high policy priority areas according to budgetary requirements. So if our budget is 1 naira today, and that's what we can fund for the year, the executive already makes plan for it under the MTF, and then when it gets to the National Assembly now, you make it 3 naira, and put all those all other sectors that maybe should be handled by humanitarian organizations or local government area council, or even if they are large enough, by state governments, and you totally disregard that MTF and then all development plans that we have. So that needs to stop. Development needs to be coordinated at all levels of government, because visibility of projects is not what makes it accountable, but rather the legality, the transparency, and also relevance to the people. So if you go to these local government areas now, there is no feasibility studies, there is no disaster and risk assessment for these projects, and then there is no coordination with the local government councils. And if you look at it, the position of a lawmaker is not an office per se in the real sense. When you take a look at the executive chairman, a state governor, or a president, or even the Senate presidency and other things. So once that lawmaker leaves office now, you have a project that has no one to oversee it, no one to continue with it, and then completely unsustainable. So if they can find a way to give ownership of these projects, no matter how important they are. If it's a borehole, definitely it's important, and the provision of
water,
clean drinking water, because we still struggle with water and hygiene and sanitation and all these things. So if you can allow the local government to take over these projects because you want to take political credit for it, then definitely it will die. I am from Yobe State and Zombi Senatorial District, that's Yobe South. We encounter an issue similar to this. A lawmaker under PDP built an ICT center, not with his own money, but when he was voted out now, he took ownership of that ICT facility and refused to give it to the people. And when at the end, the ICPC had to come and seal it up. Up to now, that place is not accessible. Federal money was used to make this, and because an individual could not accept defeat, that place has been sealed. It doesn't benefit anyone in the people. Yobe State has a few ICT centers for JAM because you need a place with enough computers for students to write JAM. And that could be a hub for JAM examinations, but it's locked for so many years now, I think since 2019 or thereabout. So this is something that needs to be looked at. We need to create a legal framework. When you go to India, they have a legal framework for it. The legislator recommend projects for his constituency, but the executive now handles it. Because what we also need to look at now is, despite the illegality, if a lawmaker now is the one responsible for executing and implementing projects, who will now oversee those projects?
Now, you raised the issue of likelihood of corruption.
Yes.
Likelihood of not being monitored, because you have to evaluate and know what has been delivered in relation to what was demanded. Now, this country is fighting a very big war against corruption. And many people say that we are not winning this war. That in fact the war is defeating us as a nation. In other words, corruption is abroad now in Nigeria. If the legislators, who are the lawmakers against this kind of situation, don't forget, our efforts at checking corruption, the legal framework for it, is being determined by the legislature. and the interpretation and whatever of it is being done by the judiciary. Today, this morning, we're discussing the apparent involvement of the legislature in making tracking and handling that corruption difficult, because if their fingers are in it, how would they then? What can the ICPC, EFCC, the police, they have they have no inhibition. There's nothing, no law stopping them from investigating, arresting, and prosecuting these legislators. And let me tell you where I'm heading to. A legislator nominates, inputs a project into the budget. He insists on nominating the contractor who will execute it. He insists on what monies will be released to the contractor whom he controls. And at the end, we speak about trailing abandoned projects. We know who nominated, we know who inserted, we know who nominated the contractor, and we know how much will be paid, and they're all working free. And this morning we're using time to discuss that foolery. What are we going to do to cause ICPC and EFCC to help us solve this problem? Because say it's going to be solved politically. Politically, when we can solve it with the law and the crime that is being committed.
Well, the major challenge now, and that's why I said it might need a political solution. Yes, because the common man, the common Nigerian man, is politically uneducated, and it encourages the corruption
what we are seeing now.
What we are seeing, because the three arms of government have three distinct roles, and it's not peculiar to Nigeria. This is globally accepted roles for the three arms of government where democracies are concerned. And but the common Nigerian doesn't see legislating as actual work. A lot of people don't know what a lawmaker is supposed to do when he comes to Abuja. What most believe is he comes to Abuja, get their own share of the national cake, and then bring it back to the constituency. So when he comes back and he's doing roads with federal government money and claiming it's his own or sharing things, they look at him as someone that is doing the work that he was sent to do, and that kind of person is most likely to be re-elected
again and again, or even become the governor.
Exactly, because they look at such a person and see someone that has a track record of working for the people, when in reality you can go to the National Assembly and see 0 bills in his name in decades in the National Assembly. And so that person now, to tell him to support a bill, because no matter how you put it, whether the bill comes from the National Assembly or it comes from the executive, to scrap constituency project, that person is not going to vote for it, and you need those votes to pass those bills. That's why I said the best we can hope for at this, because it has been allowed to grow. No matter how you try to control it, they will still do it, and the executive can do nothing about it. So the best thing is, let's regulate this. Let's have a legal framework for it that takes away this thing now from the hands of the lawmakers, because there is no checks and balance when you are the master and commander of this constituency project. So we need to bring this under the Bureau of Public Procurement, because there are laws under the BPP that already guides this. But it's appalling that you see a project award letter is coming on the letterhead of that particular lawmaker in a country like Nigeria. So this needs to stop. Everything needs to be under the BPP without interference and only oversight from the National Assembly, because if they are the ones implementing that, who will perform the oversight over them? And then when it comes to tracking of these projects, I think the ICPC is doing a critical role in that regard. The FCC is also trying, I think, but we need to empower them more. Putting them on first line of
first line in the budget.
Yeah, of the budget, I think is good, but I think more can be done if you look at other democracies.
Okay, again, that we'll come to that. We are looking at the 11,122 projects inserted into the 2025 budget by legislators of the National Assembly, not state assemblies. And that is going to cost 6.93 trillion naira. People are complaining about Nigeria's bloated budget, forcing the country to borrow more money, impoverishing the nation, and making services not reaching the ordinary people. And here we are conversing on 6.93 trillion only in the 2025 budget. And some legislators who were watching us this morning will say, why are these people raising these matters? Well, two issues have emerged. Yes, constituency projects can remain there, but we need to create a legal framework such that it can be evaluated, it can be monitored, it can be continued even after that legislature has exited. We will look at the job being done by ICPC and EFCC and how else they can be helped to work better. That will be the second part of this conversation. We'll take a short break and return shortly. Please stay with us. Well, we're still in the studio, and I'm still with my guest, Gimba Suleiman Hassan, a lawyer, and he's from the Transparency International. In this second part of this conversation, I'm going to insist on our finding out what can be done to help those who should prosecute whoever is following the rule. And Gimba, I'm sure that when you look at my face, you think I'm worried, very worried about what is happening.
Yes.
Because it was politically instituted, the Obasanjo regime was trying to do governance relationship, government-arm relationship. Okay, let us also allow you pick certain items that are of immediate impact to your constituency. And they began it. But these projects really, should they not be discussed? Should they not be made to belong to that sector of the economy which they either service? For example, boreholes. Can't we go to water resources, Minister of Water Resources, and they look at what my people need, or I make an input and becomes part of water resources project for that year, so that whether I'm there or not, it continues. I need ICT centers. As we just give an example, why can't I go to the Minister of Education? Please capture it for this area, because instead of me owning, inserting, executing, since they seem not willing to budge, because they use it to service their political reputation. What can we do to help ICPC and EFCC? I'm insisting on that side of it. Because one of our challenges in this country is that when things are going bad, we don't seem to use the law that's available to stop them.
Yes, I think the first and foremost thing we can do as citizens now is, mostly if you look at it, citizen engagement in politics is a bit high, but when it comes to governance, it's very low. It's like we vote for people and then tell them to go and do whatever they want to do, and that we will meet in 4 years.
Next election.
Yes, that's what it is basically. But citizens need to learn to organize themselves into groups of persons with similar interest, and especially developmental interest. And this is something that can be started from election period as a way of community development charter. And then community development charter in this sense is you take a book and list what your community needs. Once you list them, you now create a scale of preference. If it is a school that you are more concerned about, then it goes to number 1, health facility, primary health care center, etc, 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 and so on and so forth. So once your lawmaker gets into office now, you have to engage them. You have already given them during campaign, so
yes,
definitely when they go, whatever they want to put in constituency projects must be in line
with actual list of
list of
needs.
Charter. Yes, he needs to sign that, and if it doesn't, it's something you can recall him. And then once he's doing a project, whether it's related to what you have given him in the charter
yes,
or not, it's your job as citizens now to track those projects, because a lack of local supervision
yes,
is what gives room for ghost projects, abandoned projects, or poor quality work when it comes to these projects. And now the result of what you are tracking, if it's bad, is something you as a citizen can hand over to these anti-corruption agencies, because as good a job as they are doing, they are not good, they are not everywhere. In my state, I don't think we have a single office of an anti-corruption agency. What we have is the zonal one that is in Maiduguri. So you have to, as a citizen, be providing them with
information,
evidence, and also utilizing social media, because sometimes when there is public pressure, the authorities are more likely to act. And when there is public scrutiny, a public official is more likely to play within the rules of the country, because he knows that people's eyes are on him, and he will do anything to avoid being cast as someone that is not playing by the rules. So we have to do our jobs as citizens first.
In the course of this conversation, you've raised something also critical, and that is the citizen does not even know the difference between a legislature's function and somebody in the executive. Everyone is expected, whether you are a member of National Assembly or whether you're a governor or a minister, they expect you to bring the good things home.
Yes.
So even at this level of this conversation, it is still expecting the legislator to bring home something. And if he doesn't bring it home, he loses the next election and doesn't want to lose the next election. So how do we help the legislator not lose his own election? At the same time, we get what we want. Because what we're discussing this morning is they are doing things the wrong way, essentially.
Yes.
If they don't do it this wrong way, they don't get visible in their constituency.
Yes.
So what do we do?
Well, it's actually not our job to help them win election. But
at least let us help them perform.
Yes, what we can do, and this is what CISLAC has been doing for more than 20 years in Nigeria, is to educate the people. It's not just the lawmakers, really. A lot of government officials don't know their functions. The people don't know the functions of those government officials. So it's a case of the blind leading the blind, or the one-eyed leading the blind, and it will have been good even if it's the one-eyed leading the blind. This because there is something that I also want to talk about. That is, when it comes to jobs are really hard to get in this country, government jobs especially. And then you see a lawmaker boasting publicly that they have gotten jobs for so
number of people.
In the first instance, it's illegal because this shows some level of discrimination. It's a constitutional violation. Some level of discrimination has taken place because this guy was given this job because he knows this lawmaker. You understand my point? And then the lawmaker is posting that I got someone this job against other people that also applied,
could have competed,
and not on merit. And I also saw this happen with a commissioner that was sent to represent a state in the Federal Character Commission. And first and foremost, the role of this commissioner is to ensure that the state gets its own slot according to the Federal Character. So that's his job. And then he got this job for these people. And after getting this job, he organized an event and brought those people that he got the jobs for. It happened in Yobe, the Yobe commissioner, there's something Maigari. Well, he brought the people to a hall and they organized the event and gave them their letters. You see, this
against other people in Yobe State who could have also been given similar opportunity, and the right person gets it.
Exactly, and also in violation of the constitutional right to dignity of these people that got these jobs. Because this is not like, say, Dangote giving people jobs in this, and then Dangote wouldn't even do that because he operates within international laws when it comes to his business. And then you have someone gathering people because he has given them jobs, a job that he was sent to the Federal Character Commission to do. So, and then the people now will be appreciative because they don't know that their rights have been violated. And so it's the same thing when it comes to the lawmaker, the executive, and even the judiciary. Because the police as well. You see the police collecting money from you to give you bail. And you are thanking them when bail is free.
Written there.
Yes, it's written boldly under police is your friend, bail is free, but you have to pay money now to get that bail. So we need to educate the citizens. First and foremost, let them know what their job is, of the lawmakers rather, and then their role as citizens as well. And I think once you have this, the lawmakers will stop taking them for
Okay, I want to examine the responsibility or also irresponsibility of the executive in this whole issue that we are discussing. Now, what is a budget really? Apart from financial estimate of what is your income and what you can do, it is also a list. You can't do everything in 1 year. It is a kind of prioritization. Putting priority. This is what we are going to do this year. If that is what a budget also accomplishes, and these legislators push in 11,122 projects that were not prioritized in the first instance by the arm of government that should do it, the executive. These were just pushed in as political gratification. Are they not also undermining even prioritized development in the country?
They are, like I stated earlier, because we have the medium-term expenditure framework, which covers a period of 3 years. Yeah, exactly. And then you are bringing something outside that. We have the national development plan, and you are at the same time bringing something on that. I'm going to give you an example of how this erodes the national plan. We have an Abuja master plan, and then there was a time, I can't remember, it's I think it's under Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan. They wanted to build a house for the Senate president in the presidential villa. I think it has to be under Ahmed Lawan or under Saraki, because it's not too far
back.
behind. Yes, people had to shout and shout and shout. We were one of the organizations that put pressure against this, because you can't just come because of the interest of a single person. Set aside what has been developed to be a long-term plan for 200 million Nigerians. This can't and shouldn't be allowed to happen. And unfortunately, we have a set of leaders now that whatever appeals to them is what they allow to happen again and again. We have 11,000 plus this year. Next year, it can get up to 20,000. And most of these projects will be of low quality, abandoned, and unsustainable. And even when it comes to empowerment projects, because there is an ICPC report during our project with them, because we do work a lot with the anti-corruption agencies. Most of the way to siphon funds in this country is through empowerment projects. You put in the budget, you are giving 1,000 keke napep to 1,000 people in your constituency. Out of that 1,000 now, it will be difficult to buy up to 100.
Yeah.
And when you buy, even if it's up to 100, it doesn't, there is no data collection to know who are the poorest of the poor in that region. There is no feasibility studies, no coordination with local government. What happens is they send it to their campaign organization and then give it to their loyalists. Most of these loyalists now, you don't have people that can write keke napep. Some of them will sell, some will give to a rider to ride and bring return for them. So if you are willing to prioritize these 100 people, what happened to the thousands of people that voted for you? What happened to the thousands of people in that constituency? Because you are representing
all of them.
You are representing all of them. So how do you balance it? It doesn't make sense to make any project that has to do with empowerment of such nature. If you are empowering people, build a skill acquisition center that is going to last ages
and serve everybody.
And serve everybody except the person that doesn't want to go, and then that's his own cup of tea. But you can't just share things and then next year you still have to share the same thing to that same people that are in part of your campaign organization. This is what they are doing, and no matter what, Nigeria will not develop if we continue on this path. Because since independence, if you go back and look at it, it's the same problems that we have in Nigeria. The only thing that has changed is these problems. Some have added up. Insecurity came and left, and the insecurity came back again. These are the same problems we are having. Cyber crimes will now come and join. Yahoo will come and join. Everything will come and be joining, because we are not solving the existing problems we have, and it's because of mentalities like this.
Well, mentalities like this, trying to share even through illegal appropriation. It is now the legislatures, or in this case the National Assembly, trying to initiate the project, determine how much it's going to cost, determine to whom is to be allocated, which contractor, and we're here busy conversing on crimes, corruption, slow development, if development at all, very low growth in our politics, when by this single action all these things have manifested themselves from the very same people who ought to make the law against what we are just talking about. If the enforcer of the law or the protector of the law has his 2 hands and his 2 feet into illegality, what hope is there for Nigeria? Maybe I'm over extrapolating. This could get to a point where the people feel so bad they force the legislators to account. The account of the mob, the account of an incensed population is hardly beneficial, is hardly orderly. The justice of it, the justice of the jungle. Who likes that? So many things add up to citizen unhappiness. That's all we're going round and round this morning. 11,122 projects inserted into the 2025 budget. And I'll allow Gimba to have the last word this morning. Gimba, with all you've said, does the 2025 budget belong to the executive and to Tinubu? Can we hold Tinubu to account for the 2025 budget when it was indeed completed, prioritized by the legislature?
Definitely, because no matter what, the buck stops at his table, and he doesn't just own the budget. I think the executive owns the legislature by what we have seen so far. So they are two sides of the same coin, actually, and this current set of National Assembly has gone beyond rubber stamp. It is technically working for the executive. If you look at what they have been doing in terms of what they have been voting on, when Tinubu sent this budget to the National Assembly, he sent a supplementary budget afterwards without following due process, because the budget has already been sent. They have not even deliberated on it, and after that you have to look at the illegality that happened in Rivers State, where they sacked, let me use the word, suspend a sitting governor against all tenets of democracy and our constitution. These people used a voice vote to reaffirm that. You look at what happened to Natasha, you look at what happened to Ndumi. Anyone that raises his voice against the executive or the leadership of the National Assembly is being punished by the National Assembly. And I would like to close by adding on another abuse of the Constitution that is happening at the National Assembly. A lot of lawmakers have decamped to the APC, all of them after meeting with President Tinubu. Up to this day, the constitutional mandate of losing their seats if they leave the party that they were elected on has not been complied with. The Senate President is yet to make that announcement, because they keep working for the executive, they keep working for the APC in the National Assembly that is supposed to serve all Nigerians. So, of course, the success or the failure of this year's budget will start and stop with President Tinubu.
Well, the President, Gimba says, did not outsource the 2025 budget. Even if he did outsource it to the legislature, he takes responsibility. He carries the can. So the flaws in those 11,122 extra budgets and the 6.93 trillion naira added by that number is in fact has been done by Tinubu. So he says the buck stops at his table. And that's our final word this morning. Let me thank Gimba Suleiman Hassan. He's a lawyer from CISLAC, Transparency International, for responding when we told him, when we raised the alarm that these figures worry us. Gimba, thank you for coming to the program.
Thank you for having me, sir.
My name is Mwaboze Njoko. Have a great day and good morning.